If your KitchenAid mixer is noisy and the attachment is hitting the bowl, don't assume something is broken. A lot of the time, it just needs a small height adjustment, and KitchenAid says that clearance can change over time with normal use. First, let's clear up what we're actually adjusting. On a KitchenAid stand mixer, you are adjusting the beater to bowl clearance. KitchenAid says the mixer is set at the factory, so the flat beater just clears the bottom of the bowl. But if the beater starts scraping the bowl, or if it sits too high and leaves ingredients at the bottom, that clearance needs to be corrected. When it is set properly, the accessory should move freely without hitting the bottom or sides, but it also should not sit too far above the bowl. And here is the most important tip right up front. Make the adjustment with the flat beater attached, not with the wire whip. That matches KitchenAid's own instructions and dime test method. The flat beater is the reference tool for setting the right height. Before you do anything, unplug the mixer. KitchenAid's instructions start there, and for obvious reasons, this is not the kind of job you want to do with the machine live. Then, attach the bowl properly and attach the flat beater. If you have a bowl lift model, make sure the bowl is really locked in. KitchenAid says the bowl may look level even when it is not fully seated, and on bowl lift models, you should press down on the back of the bowl until you hear a snap. If the bowl is not locked in, the beater can hit the bowl even when the adjustment is technically fine. Now let's talk about the easiest way to check the height, the dime test. KitchenAid says to place a dime in the bowl with the flat beater attached, then turn the mixer on and watch the dime. If the dime does not move at all, the beater is too high. If the dime is getting pushed too hard or not moving around the bowl smoothly, the beater is too low. When the clearance is correct, the dime should move about 1/4 inch with each pass of the beater. One quick note here, KitchenAid says the dime test is for stainless steel bowls only, not glass or ceramic bowls. If you have a tilt head mixer, tilt the motor head back and find the adjustment screw. KitchenAid says to turn that screw slightly counterclockwise or left to raise the accessory and clockwise or right to lower it. Make very small changes. This is not a give it 3 full spins and hope for the best situation, just a small turn, then test again. KitchenAid also warns that if you over adjust the screw, the bowl lock lever may not lock into place properly. If you have a bowl lift mixer, lower the bowl first, then find the adjustment screw. KitchenAid says to turn the screw counterclockwise to raise the bowl and clockwise to lower it on many bowl lift models. It also says only a slight turn is needed and that the screw usually will not rotate more than 1/4 turn in either direction. KitchenAid also notes that on some bowl lift models made after April 2003, the direction may be reversed. So if turning clockwise is not helping, try the opposite direction. Then raise the bowl and check the clearance again. Now, here is what the adjustment should feel like when it is right. The flat beater should just clear the surface of the bowl. It should not bang, scrape, or chip. KitchenAid says that if the beater is too low, it can hit the bottom of the bowl and the coating on the flat beater can chip off. If the beater is too high, it will miss ingredients at the bottom. So you are aiming for that sweet spot right in the middle. And that brings us to the wire whip. If you switch from the flat beater to the whip and the whip still touches the bowl while running, stop the mixer. KitchenAid says that when properly adjusted, accessories should not strike the bottom or sides of the bowl. And if the flat beater or the wire whip hits the bowl, the coating on the beater or the wires on the whip can wear. Here is the important part though. KitchenAid's official adjustment procedure is still to set the mixer using the flat beater and the clearance screw. So if the flat beater is adjusted correctly and the wire whip still touches, that can mean the whip is worn, bent, or not the correct accessory for that bowl or model. In other words, The first adjustment is the mixer height, not hand bending the whisk. If the whip alone is the problem after the flat beater passes the test, inspect the whip carefully and compare it with the correct accessory for your model before using it again. That is the safest way to think about it based on KitchenAid's guidance. Also, if you are using a glass bowl, KitchenAid says the clearance may need a slightly different setup, and the dime test should not be used. With glass or ceramic, you adjust without the dime until you are satisfied with the mixing performance. So, if someone says, I did the dime test and it still looks off, check the bowl type first. Stainless bowl and glass bowl do not play by exactly the same rules. So the simple version is this: unplug the mixer, attach the bowl and the flat beater, run the dime test if you have a stainless bowl, and make a very small screw adjustment. Left usually raises the beater, right usually lowers it, though some bowl lift models can be reversed. Then test again. If the mixer is adjusted properly, the attachment should not hit the bowl, the machine should run more smoothly, and ingredients at the bottom should get picked up better. And honestly, that is the good news here. If your KitchenAid mixer is noisy because the attachment is tapping the bowl, it is often not a major repair. It is usually just a clearance issue, and once you dial it in, the mixer goes back to sounding like a mixer instead of a tiny construction site on your counter.